plays sandlot sports, basketball and baseball, football. We were lined up so that the captain of each team could choose their players. And I remember the feeling of relief when I was chosen, and you were proud, and you feel like you were, especially when you were among the first to be called. But then it got down to the last couple of people, and they usually weren't liked as much as the others, or maybe they were not as good at the sport as some others. So the two captains would argue about who would have these last boys to join their team. And you feel sorry for them because you know yourself that it doesn't ever feel good not to be wanted. But isn't it good to know that God, the head of all of everything, wants you on his team? That before the foundation of the world, God looked through time, and he saw you, and he saw me, and he said, I'll take him, I'll take her. He didn't leave you till last. He chose you before you ever lined up to be considered. Here's what Jeremiah 1:4-8 says. Then the word of the Lord came to me, saying, before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee. And I ordained thee as a prophet to the nations. And then said, Lord God, behold, I can't speak. I'm a child. For thou shalt go to all, and I shall send thee. And whatsoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. Be not afraid of their faces, for I'm with thee to deliver thee, saith the Lord. What a relief to know that you and I didn't get here by accident. That when you came to the Lord to give your heart to him, God wasn't there saying, let's see, he repented, he's believing, he's confessing Jesus is Lord. Oh, well, he's fulfilled all the conditions. Now I have to utter my word. Now I have to accept him. And him of all people, he's the last I would have chosen. How do I get myself into these fixes? No, God chose you, brothers and sisters. You've been selected part of the team, and it's better than any earthly team could ever be. Wow. So important to remember, as John 15:16 declares, you have not chosen me, but I've chosen you, and I've ordained you that you should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain. And whatsoever you ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. It's important to know that, yes, God wants us in the family. He wants us forever with him. But there's a relevant question for all of us, not for the forum tonight only, but for all candidates. And I get my jabs in before the questions start, even before the events happen. And so here's the jab. Every position that is being sought by men and women who feel like they have something to offer. Question one is, what have I been doing prior to running for office to serve the community? Prior to seeking this position, what will I do if perchance I don't get elected to serve? Don't win the election? Will I go away? And for both of those questions, the response should be, I'm involved not because of a title. I'm involved because I've been called to serve. Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this time. We thank you for this place. We thank you for this candidate that presents herself this evening to the community, both in person and online through different portals. And so, Father, we pray your blessing upon this time, that there will be information shared, that there will be understanding gathered, And Father, that it will inform the electorate. We thank you for SEAL, and we thank you for its facilitator. We thank you for the moderator that is here. And we pray to God that all will be done decently and in order. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Chris. First of all, I want to say thank you for opening up your doors for SEAL. Let me set a few housekeeping rules. Anyone that has a phone on, please put it on silent. We're recording, so it picks up everything. No talking, no clapping, applauding. You can do all that at the end of the forum. I want to thank the people for listening to me and say no campaign, T-shirts and hats and etc. Anybody that's not here, I hope you didn't put signs on the yard, because we'll go out there and check. Somebody's gonna go check. And if they're out there, they will be discarded. I have some rules and I play by my rules, and I want everybody else to play by the rules. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Samantha Hudson for taking the call. It's 3 people in her race. I talked to one. Everybody got an email. She was the only one confirmed. And so my thing is, if the one person confirmed, the show go on. I don't stop because you didn't accept or you chose not to come. I always let people know that I am not on the ballot. You're on the ballot. And anybody that's running for these seats should want to be seen and heard by the public. I want to thank my moderator, Joe Flint. And so what we're going to do, since it's only Dr. Samantha Hudson tonight, we're going to give her, a timekeeper is going to keep of her introduction of 2 minutes. And then once the induction is off, we're going to turn off the timer because it's just her. I have the questions. Nobody has these questions but me. And so now I'm going to give them to my moderator. And he's been with me long enough that he knows he stick to the script. And he do what SEAL president asks him to do. And if he get off script, I come up there and tap his shoulder. But usually he know the rule and he follows, and I appreciate him doing that. I want to thank my team for being here. And so with that being said, we're going to hear from Dr. Samantha Hudson, that is running for Fairburn City Council. And over there, it's not a runoff for them. Whoever get the highest vote. So if one person get 5 votes and Samantha get 10 votes, Samantha is on the council. So whatever do, we're going to turn it over to Pastor Joe Flynn. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us here at this forum where we will get to know Dr. Hudson a little better. I am your moderator for this evening, Joe Flynn, all one word, like a tribe called Quest. We're going to again give Dr. Hudson 2 minutes to give an introduction, after which we will dive into the questions. Again, because she is the only candidate here, she has the floor at all costs. I asked her, did she have an hour and a half of material? She said she can go till Sunday. That's what she told me. But we're just going to keep it here for this evening. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are glad to welcome and introduce Dr. Samantha Hudson, candidate for City Council in the great city of Fairburn, Georgia.
Thank you. Thank you to the SEAL organization for the work that you're doing in our communities and exposing our voters to candidates and giving them firsthand information on how to be informed at the ballot. Thank you again. My name is Dr. Samantha Hudson. I want to be a good evening to the Fahrenheits that are watching or who will watch this. My name is Dr. Hudson, and I am an 18-year resident of the city of Fairburn. I have not just lived in the city, I have served it. I am a mother, a grandmother, a social worker with a master in social work, a former educator with over 5 years in the classroom, and I've earned my doctorate in public administration with research published in the Library of Congress. My research of Fairburn is the most important that I want you to know. Our city needs to strengthen its policies, improve its practices, and increase accountability. My research has also discovered the lack of transparency and accountability. And tonight, I come before you not just as a candidate, but as a council member who has done the work and have asked the hard questions. I also want to acknowledge something. I'm the only candidate who confirmed and showed up tonight because leadership requires presence, respect, and accountability to people. I'm here. Who am I and my roots? Before I ever ran for office, I was already serving. I led the voter education efforts through the Black Georgia Vote, organized community outreach initiatives that has landed Fairburn to casting over 7,000 votes in the last municipal election. I'm here to serve. I show up and I put action to my words.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Hudson. I do believe you can go till Sunday now. We're going to jump right into our questions. And again, thank you for answering the call. I'm going to ask you this because what I have come to know is that everybody doesn't understand municipalities and the government that municipalities have. Each municipality is different. Some have a weak mayor and strong council, and some have a strong mayor and weak council. And so for the city of Fairburn, what form of government does Fairburn fall under?
City council, city manager form of government.
City council, city manager form of government. Okay, all right. Now, what kind of training does the city council get?
We attend the Georgia Municipal Association, where you get to learn about ethics, your role as a council member, the legal part of municipal government, HR, how that's ran, pretty much all of the major key components of leadership and administration and how council is informed on their role with oversight.
Thank you. How is the city dealing with homelessness and seniors?
The city isn't dealing with homelessness, and the city isn't dealing with seniors in the manner in which they should. And I'll explain. Recently, there has been a cry out from our seniors about increased market rate rent in a low income facility. Now, Fairburn, what I understand with this development, offered those low income tax credits. So what's unknown is if the time frame or if there was a time limit on those credits, and if those residents prior to signing those leases were made aware of that. But my concern is there's quietness, there's complicitness. Nobody but the seniors is speaking out about it. The high utility rates that they have to incur, that can be damaging for seniors who are on a fixed income. You know, when we talk about homelessness, it looks different. It's not how we think traditional homelessness is. Homelessness sometimes is shelter in place with other individuals. You don't see that form of homelessness, but then we have a growing population of homelessness that are on the street in Fairburn that I believe that we're ignoring. I'm seeing a lot of mothers sleeping in their cars, in certain areas at nighttime, in like the small little areas like at the gas stations and things like that. So I think because Fairburn has been deemed a rural community or a sleeping town, that no one believes or has paid attention to how growth can manifest in a community. And we need to have real solutions now on addressing these issues. We are a metroplex city now, which means any homelessness that comes in from Atlanta, it's going to hit the city of South Fulton, Union City, spill over into Fairburn, as well as Palmetto. So we have to be really focused on the data. And I'll get into that as we go in about how I understood how our development needs to grow regionally. I attended the ARC leadership training several weeks. I took my stipend that we were given for our education and training, and I got in that cohort because I wanted to see Fairburn on a regional level. What partnerships and what were some of the issues that we were experiencing that were happening in neighboring cities. I think a government is effective when it doesn't work in silo than when it works in collaboration. So how we're treating our seniors is, for lack of better words, is a disgrace. I am not getting any younger. I want to be in a community that knows I'm there. Seniors represent 7% of a very small population in Fairburn, but a very powerful population because that's wisdom. They've served, they're educated, they've done their time, and this is the time in their life where they should be enjoying the fruits of their labor, not worrying about becoming homeless in the next 30 days.
Love the sound of that. Can you share with us some of the things that you accomplished while in office previously?
Absolutely. I believe in results. And so while in office, one of the major components was our infrastructure. Our utility infrastructure is very weak. Our infrastructure in Fairburn is weak. And I noticed that Fairburn needed linemen. We didn't have enough linemen. So my work on council, when I stepped into office, I came prepared with education, experience, and research. The charter rewrite. Our charter is outdated. It creates confusion in governance. And I've advocated for a rewrite to ensure transparency and lawful operations. Now we got Carl Vincent Institute to come out and do a workshop, but it's stalled there. Water authority and accountability. For over 26 years, approximately $1.1 million of taxpayer money is paid out with no measurable progress to the Middle Chattahoochee Water Authority. And I've advocated for disbanding the authority to protect taxpayer dollars. The authority has not been disbanded, but the frequency of their meetings are not occurring as they were. There's more light that's being shed on the operations of the water authority and how those finances were being used. For example, one city could not have a clean audit. For years, I believe over 10 years, I'll go lower than higher, they could not produce a clean audit. So if Fairburn is a part of this authority, regardless, we're still paying this $1.1 million every year. And we don't even have a logistical land site where this water authority is going to be. So what I also noticed in my research of the Middle Chattahoochee Water Authority, it consists of, for those that don't know, it consists of 3 cities: Union City, Fairburn, and Palmetto. And what I found very odd was that the finance manager was also the auditor. So we have to be very, very careful as a government body to allow things like this or projects like this to go without oversight. And I think because it's been in place for so many years, that it hasn't become a priority. But it was always a priority to me when I began to research Fairburn, because quality of life issues are very important, especially in a small town like Fairburn, in your landlocked. So you begin to zoom in on our living quarters, our infrastructure, our water quality, our air quality, our taxes affordable for the citizens, how we're developing. Are we using smart development, or are we increasing in industrialization? Do we have corporate social responsibility with warehouses or these industries to invest back into our infrastructure?
Say more.
Government accountability. I've raised concerns regarding the lack of employee evaluations while on the dais, the absence of performance metrics such as KPIs, which is very important because when you're working in the public sector, you have to have metrics in place to measure how the tax dollar is being used and if it's being used in an efficient way. And if we don't have the data to substantiate that, how do you substantiate spending? Spending without measurable outcomes is very dangerous. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. Utility infrastructure. Now, through the MEAG engagement, I went to the MEAG conference last year, and I identified the absence of comprehensive utility plans as early as October 2025, no economic development plan, no comp plan for utilities, which is our revenue generating resource in Fairburn. And how that works for those who don't know that Fairburn owns their own power company is that the revenue in which is generated through the utility bills should be utilized to improve the infrastructure as well as regulate our utility rates. So when you have a situation where utility rates are increased abruptly, and there's no explanation other than we haven't had an increase in 12 years, there's been no work up to with the residents, there's no matrix tracking how we would work across affordability if there's going to be a spike or increase, who will be our partners, how do we get representation in the city from LIHEAP to offset this? It was just everybody woke up in January with double utility bills the same size as their mortgage.
While we're on that subject, if you don't mind, can you tell us what is ARPA?
ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act.
Okay.
And ARPA, Fairburn received over $6 million of ARPA. The classification in which we received those funds were based off of the lost wages, which it has been stated, but no policy shown, that when it was declared for lost wages, there's some flexibility. That was the language that I heard in how the dollars can be allocated. Now, I read ARPA, and I know exactly how the dollars should have been allocated. And there was a 100% allocation plan for ARPA that kept the city safe and compliant. That plan changed when a new administration came in, and the council reallocated the funding, slashing, for an example, $500,000 for utility assistance down to $250,000. That's big. Slashing the amount of infrastructure improvements in utilities, sewer and water. And so when you raise the utility rates and you don't have a plan in place, you reallocate the ARPA funding, but the problem is how it was reallocated and how it was spent has Fairburn now under federal audit through the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Thank you. Let's go back to something that you mentioned earlier, which was about development. Let's talk about developing and the process and what makes and what's being developed in the city of Fairburn. Something, if you don't mind, I just want to kind of touch. faced with this. You mentioned that the auditor was also the city manager. The
The
auditor
auditor for the water authority
was also the
was also the finance manager.
finance manager. The auditor was also the finance manager. The reason why that stuck with me, because I can remember a time when I was stationed in Mississippi that the city manager of Macomb, Mississippi, was also the mayor of Magnolia, Mississippi. I said, how does that work? But that came to mind. But let's talk about development. What is developing process as a council member, and what is being developed in the city of Fairburn?
You can't talk about development without planning and zoning. And one of the issues that I see is our antiquated and outdated policies in planning and zoning. It is not giving Fairburn the wind that we need, and with an outdated charter, it's leaving us locked into antiquated or one-sided focus of our development. And this is what I mean by that. We have a growing population of younger homeowners between the ages beginning at 30 and 35. So when we're developing homes in Fairburn, are we developing homes just based off of rooftops? Are we developing homes to make sure that we are creating communities that's going to be long-standing and not dwell away? Affordability is important. What I'm seeing now, there's a lot of focus on apartments, multi-family, as well as warehousing. Now, I'm not against multi-family housing units, but a city like Fairburn that's landlocked, we have to be smart. If we're creating multi-family units, but the only industry is warehousing, then how long do you think that we're going to be able to benefit from that development? We got to think long-term here. So if we utilize warehousing in the right manner, we would actually have policies for corporate social responsibility. I traveled to Washington State, and I visited a warehouse community where I saw that in that community, one, you could barely tell warehouses was there. Two, the warehouses poured back into that community. They invested in clean energy, green spaces was donated, as well as the relationship that they had fostered with the community and the utilization of some of those facilities, the education that was being utilized to employ high schoolers or going into the high school. They were engaged in showing so many multifacets of the industry and not just from the labor focus. And so Fairburn, I don't believe the door of opportunity has closed, but as leaders and as servants, we have to start thinking about smart development and how we build relationships with developers. That's a problem. Because if you give the idea of an unction to developers that you simply want to develop just to make a name for yourself, and you're not developing and looking at quality of life, improving our infrastructure in Fairburn, then is that development really is going to be the biggest bang for our buck in Fairburn? We are landlocked. There's no more land.
I was going to ask you, do you think sometimes, and this is off script, me, do you think sometimes that Fairburn is overshadowed by the cities that are surrounding it? And what I mean by that is, do you think that they are shortchanged on development and on, just any entertainment or anything that can come there because you're landlocked and because Fairburn is in a multi-city area?
I wish I could give that, but no. Because here's the uniqueness about the location of Fairburn, even though it's landlocked.
Yes.
We're 12 minutes away from the Hartsfield National Airport. We're 24, 26, depending on how long it take you to drive to the international airport. So how are we using transportation? Where's our partnerships with ARC? What are we gonna do as we expand? We're expanding with housing, we're not doing anything about traffic. We have a gold mine when it comes to the airport. Fairburn can have one of the baddest shuttles coming in from the airport because we're right there, one of the close cities. It's not that we're overshadowed by other cities, it's this opportunity. See, you remember growing up when your mother would say you gotta take what you have and use it. You can make something out of nothing. Black folks, that's what we've been used to doing, knowing how to take little and make much.
Is the missed opportunity because of the current government, or is it because of missed opportunities?
It's because of the mindsets of individuals who have taken these elected seats. You know, when you don't lead from the basis of the people and only power, you lose focus on why you're there. See, you're not even a leader, you're serving. And that's important. The real leaders are those who are paying the tax dollars to fund this government.
That's the answer. Tell us about data centers. What are your thoughts about data centers?
Absolutely no.
Please elaborate.
I don't, I've read up on data centers, and for a city the size of Fairburn, it would not benefit us. We have too many issues with our utility infrastructure that has even caused warehouses to close down shifts because the water pressure was too low. So I don't see a clear energy plan that have come across the dais to me that would make me feel okay to vote to support data centers in the city of Fairburn. In bigger cities, it may play a good role, but for the city of Fairburn, it would not. Let's get utility rates right. Let's deal with landfills that are wanting to expand in one of the prominent subdivisions, Durham Lakes, in the city of Fairburn. Let's address our water and our sewer. Okay, let's make sure that we are cleaning out and doing our due diligence to clean sewage, and that we are providing supervision for contractors who come in the intimate parts of our community and laying asphalt, not allowing it to go into the sewers and back up in residents' homes. Let's start with the basics of respecting the taxpayer and going to the taxpayer, asking them what it is that they want, instead of making the decisions for them and having to now deal with the backlash of those decisions that were made.
So let me ask you this, and it's a little personal, but I think that we've established a rapport here.
Yes.
Why do you think they went after you to be removed?
You could classify me as a whistleblower. Because when you let's take a moment to talk about this.
Please.
When I hit the dais January 12th of 2024, there was already a list of items that I had requested from the city administrator and the city clerk, just to bring me up to speed with where we were in terms of if there were any pending litigation, if there was any settlements that had went out. I asked about protocol, our standing operating procedure manual for the police department, because I saw in 2024 coming in, we had a lot of litigation against the city. And we had civil rights litigation coming out of the police department. And one of those cases, hit me really hard. And when I read the case, I just wanted to know, how did the traffic stop get here? And that case, the city had to pay out on that case. And I wanted to see what are standard operating procedures in the police department. Because what the plaintiff attorney said in that case was Fairburn did not have the de-escalation policy in place. And it gave an example of the city of Atlanta and other cities since the George Floyd incident. But we know before George Floyd, we had Rodney King, Tamir Rice. We had all of these different things that were happening in our communities. One thing that I was proud to say is up under Elizabeth Carr-Hurst's leadership, she was the one that went and instilled body cams in the city of Fairburn. So that was progressive, a progressive move. But one of my concerns was with a 76% African-American town, one black lieutenant in a black shirt, and all the other white shirts are non-black. So that's a problem. And it's not that I believe that we just have to have an all-black leadership of police force. But equity means something. It means something. When we have the right representation in our communities, that can make a difference in the traffic stop going the wrong way or the right way. And another thing I want to talk about coming in, I learned that we had so much litigation that Fairburn lost its liability insurance. Now, as a legislator, I'm supposed to, first of all, my first role is to be financially responsible. That word sometimes catches me. The second one is to legislate. So I wasn't going in to say, oh, I got you. This is what I do. I have a doctorate in public administration. At the time I started school is where I used Fairman's budget for my first project. And so they went after me because I asked the questions. I spoke up. I did not sit quiet and allow the mayor to dictate what it was that I should do, what I should ask for, and what I shouldn't ask for. But the problem is that when you have individuals who have an honor system in place, this is what you get. And so ultimately, I was a whistleblower because when you begin to ask for the reports for opera, because the council has not seen not one opera report that went to the federal government. How? When you have a mayor that spends the tax dollar without consent from council by way of opening up investigations against council members in which they did not like and hiring third-party firms without a vote from council, that's problematic. Even more problematic to be the only council member, like, this light bulb is opening up, and I'm like, hey, you guys are more seasoned than I am, but this is what I need to make the decision. Maybe they got it. Maybe they have all the information. But for me, I needed this information to make informed decisions. That's how legislators operate. You don't make decisions based off of just what the staff will come before you and tell you. You need to be able to justify that if it's a tax dollar attached to it, how, when, where, what, and why. That's all. So this has been, I will not say it has been easy, but I will say it is worth it. And being able to say tonight that it's worth it is growth in me. Because when you weaponize the police department against an elected official and against their family, that can get very nasty very quick. And I want my community to know that this is nothing that we need to play with. They elected me. They said yes to me for a reason. Fairburn knows Dr. Samantha Hudson. They know Samantha. They know why they elected me. And I did nothing wrong. So I want to address the allegation of releasing confidential information. Confidentiality is established through executive session. No duly elected official has the right to give any council member or member of that body a cease and desist letter, telling them that they can't make a complaint about them in public. That's what that was about. Wasn't that I broke the law. I did not do what he told me not to do. And seemingly dissent is how I was responded to.
With that I literally was going to ask the question. Of course, I think I know the answer to this, but do you think that they had the right to remove you?
No, they did not have the right to remove me because you cannot use an HR policy to remove an elected official. And in the letter that was given to me, it stated pursuant of this HR policy. And it also said, although it doesn't guide elected officials, pursuant to, this is what the investigation is going to be about. There was a rush to host an ethics hearing and knew I was out the country. So that was the deck was already stacked up against me. Because one of the things that the residents don't know is that the mayor at the time was exposed for destroying public records. This was a document that's clear, that was in Fulton County Superior Court. You know, we as a city, we have to operate with integrity. We have to follow the law. We can't allow unlawful governance to rule in our city. We have to follow the law. Now, even with an antiquated, outdated charter, the council before me did the work to update the municipal code to include the city council, city manager form of government, with the mayor being the CEO. And the CEO is only the intergovernmental, not all power. So you need the CEO in place to run the business of the day. Like I am the CEO of Vision Center of Hope. But, you know, I have to have other people that work in silo with me to get the job done. There has to be a board in place to make sure that I am making the right decisions. So if the council is the board of oversight, and we have a mayor and administrators doing whatever they want to do, why do we have elected officials?
This baffles me, Dr. Hudson, because knowing that you have a doctorate in public administration, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and a letter was given to you with an HR policy. And maybe I just missed it, but how were you able to, or have you been able to fight against that HR policy letter?
There's pending litigation. So this is interesting. I'm happy to talk about this. So in September, there's a timeline. I want you guys to follow this. There was emails from February up to April constantly requesting these documents from the city clerk. The city clerk then took the request as harassment and initiated an EEO complaint that I never saw. It was a complaint that was filed with HR that I was never made aware of, but the letter came from the mayor. It was sent in an email and laid out on the dais. So if it's sent in the email, it's truly not confidential. And if it's on the dais and everyone else has a copy of the letter, that's not confidential.
Forgive me for interrupting. I think maybe I'm missing it because a degree in public administration tells me that you know how these policies are operating, especially for elected officials. So I'm still trying to figure out how was the line drawn from an HR policy that is for interdepartment people and not an elected official.
Well, you have to go back to who is the legal organ in the city.
Okay.
When you have the city attorney guiding the boards in a manner in which in steering this for the mayor, that's the way it's going to go. And a lot of people, what I learned through this as well is our city is not informed on government. And when I became councilwoman, I started a series, Civic in the City. I don't have a problem with giving information. I'm not here to be a career politician in Fairburn. God knows that I aspire to do other things, but this is my home for 18 years. I came from the city of Chicago, a very violent place at the time, to little old Fairburn to raise my children as a single mom. And I saw a city that I could contribute to before I even ran for public office. The Black Georgia Vote Initiative, the Fairburn Family Fun Day, feeding the homeless, going in and out of homes in my official capacity as a therapist, as a social worker, right in the city of Fairburn, touching families in the most intimate way. So when I can see the micro system in our city, and we are middle government. We're at the meso level. The state in Georgia will be our micro level. So at the meso level, we're home rule. So it is important, especially in a time where we are today. I know residents woke up in January like a storm hit them financially. Scarcity of resources, threaten a war conflict. It's imperative that we know what our resources are and that those resources are manned appropriately in this time to make sure that Fairburn does not fall behind the 8 ball.
In speaking with or in dealing with the things that we've talked about, it seems to me that open records is kind of an issue in the city of Fairburn. Does Fairburn have an open records issue?
Yes, I can tell you that. And it came after me because I filed a complaint with Chris Carr's office, the Attorney General's office. Because you got to tell me, how is it that I can file ethics complaints for harassment and intimidation that is seen on camera in an open council meeting, that a member of the dais is utilizing his role to stare me down and intimidate me and had to be redirected by myself and the mayor. And when the complaint is filed, you go into a closed session to deliberate, but complaints prior was deliberated publicly. So the investigative committee's role is just to determine, does this complaint meet the threshold to go forward to the ethics board? So the 3 that was filed got thrown out, but the 1 that the mayor filed went through.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You spoke earlier about finance audit and compliance issues at the state and federal level. Is there any oversight?
When you say, I'm going to say, I strongly believe that when we talk about oversight, that our council members need to get on the ball with this. And here's why. I want to take some time to go through this. Accountability and financial concerns that I saw. As a part of my responsibility on council, I reviewed the City of Fairburn's annual comprehensive financial report, the ACFR, independent audit findings, and public available financial disclosures. These documents are available through the Georgia Department of Audits and Audits Local Government Financial Reporting portal, the City of Fairburn official website, the financial ACFR section, open records requests through the city clerk's office, as well as the U.S. Department of Treasury. Based on these records, several concerns stand out. So let's talk about budget versus actual revenue gap. So here's an example. Budget revenue of $2,714,126, but the actual revenue, $1,906,238, a shortfall of over $800,000. That's over 30%. So a variance of this size raises concern about forecasting. How do we get there? And if you're not doing 8 KPIs, how'd you get there? Now, math is not my favorite subject, but when you look at forecasting accuracy, revenue tracking, and financial planning, I'm not seeing how we can account for a budgeted revenue of over $2 million, but the actual revenue was 1,900,000 in a shortfall of 830%. That's big. What's happening there? So now we have had 3 finance directors in a year. All right. So I want to go a little bit deeper into this finances because it's important. Now,
Can I ask
Go
real
ahead.
quickly? You can't drop that kind of nugget and not expect me to
go
ask.
ahead. Go ahead.
3 finance directors in a year?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, the first finance director went on back to their job at the school system or wherever they went before. But I don't know. I don't know why they won't stay. This is the most inconsistent that we've ever had before in Fairburn. 3. And I'm concerned because, the lack of transparency in what's happening in the city is very dangerous. Because when you get the U.S. Department of Treasury disqualify you from a desktop audit and do an in-person audit, something is happening. So we were flagged by the U.S. Department of Treasury as well as Georgia audits. We were flagged. Now I'm going to explain what a clean audit is because that language is often used. A clean audit doesn't mean that it measured how, the what, and who. It just said that you reported on time and that's it. So when you look at our capital funds not used, a budget capital outlays of $1,910,000, actual spending $229,245, unspent funds approximately $1.68 million. This indicates delays possibly in projects, execution, procurement breakdowns, or potential reallocation concerns that impact service delivery. Hotel motel tax compliance. Now, this is a show no, because the hotel motel tax is the tourism law here in Georgia. So if Fairburn collected over $300,770 in hotel motel tax compliance, but the tourism promotion that was used, that we actually used it for was only $127,333. The transfer to general fund of $50,000 broke Georgia law. So OCGA 48-13-51, these funds are intended primarily for tourism promotion. Diversion to general operation raises compliance questions that warrant further review. Now, when you talk about compliance, what I saw in terms of the auditor's comments were linking toward no internal controls. So when you say to me that there's no internal controls in finance, as far as us, so what we doing? Who's watching the money? And you're not following the procurement policies.
So you mentioned just a moment ago about the 50,000 that was transferred to the general fund, which is against Georgia law. So what's been done or said about that?
Nothing. I want to go there to the development authority as well, because when you look at the development authority, that's our economic development, and they work hand in hand with our economic development person. So if you got a budget allocation for $20,700 for development authority, and the reported spending is 0. So did we not spend any money? I saw activities. I could track the activities that's happening in economic development with this development authority. So this suggests an inactive economic development programming or a breakdown in operational execution. Could it be that we did spend and it wasn't adequately reported? Or could it be that we don't have enough guidance on what's happening in the DDA? And this is an area that I do want to look into more because this wasn't on my radar until I pulled the audit.
Earlier, in the introduction that was given, or the commentary that was given by Pastor Chris, he said something that speaks volumes to an individual, and let me just say this, in your current position. I learned years ago that the interview actually starts after you don't get the job. And so in the interim, what have you been doing since the removal? And how do you feel that you'll be able to work with those once reelected?
And I'm glad you asked that question, because the realistic way to deal with any hurt is to heal. I believe I've sown bountifully in the city of Fairburn. And I needed to take time to rest and recover and reflect. Because reflection to me allows me the time to empty out all of this negative energy that came my way. I had to focus on being the vessel for Fairburn at one time, but at this time, I had to go to God. Listen, this is nothing that I can do on my own. You know, I made a commitment to God, and He had to reveal that to me, and He had to help me understand that the night of the impeachment, the night before, when we were down in Fulton County trying to stop it, I had to come to a realization that I was heading into a Garden of Gethsemane. No, I'm not Jesus Christ. But I had to go into a space and understand that this was something that I did not want. But it was the peace of God that helped me understand that this was not unto my death, but it was going to be unto the glory of God. And that I was a catalyst for change. And that while I prayed that He would take this away from me, once I realized that they were going to do it anyway, I was free.
So let me play, and I hate to even say this being a preacher, the devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Are you healed to serve, or are you ready to serve to be healed?
No, I'm healed to serve. You know, I can't control the decisions of other people and what they do. I know that as a woman of God I am, the Bible has a resource that you reap what you sow. And forgiving them heals and frees me. It frees me to be the wife that I need to be. It frees me to be the grandmother that I need to be. It frees me to continue to be productive in my own professional life, knowing that I did nothing wrong. I gave. I showed up. I did what was right. And so I don't have any ill will against anyone on that council that voted to remove me, because what people don't know, that one council member in 2 years of me being on the council gifted me over $16,000 of their training budget so that I can take on additional trainings to learn more about the operations of the city and how we can find solutions for Fairburn. I am a policy expert. I believe black and white. If it's not in black and white, it did not happen.
Quite often, Dr. Hudson, I'm told that I'm too militant because I am black and white. So I can understand that. Let me ask you this question. Unlawful appointment secured with council vote. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the council is liable. I'm going to leave that there. But I want to go to this. When you break the charter, and the charter specifically says that you have to have a special election if it's more than 2 years left in a term, that's what you do. You can't tell me that someone who accepted an appointment is without knowledge of what they accepted, especially when you took an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution from foreign and to protect this country from foreign and domestic enemies. The Army does something and gives you something, tools that sometimes everyday life doesn't get. I learned that from being a mom who encouraged my son to become a veteran. So when this happened in the city, it brings on a negative image for the city, not just me. Because when people do their due diligence and their research, I'm getting, what did she do? But ask questions. What did she do? But ask for documentation. And guess what, Pastor Flint? Regardless of what they did, I'm going to show up and keep asking until I get it.
You brought up the charter, so that makes me question, is the charter outdated?
Yes. The last update of the charter was in 1912. The charter still.
The last update of the city of Fairburn's charter is from 1912,
1912.
not 2012.
No, 1912. And with provocative language that says Marion Council should maintain chain gangs. The 1912 charter, and why I'm so adamant about this, and I want Fairburn residents to hear me when I say this. We're nearing and trending an 80% African American city, and a charter that has the infrastructure of white supremacy does not give us the win that we need. It does not facilitate the how our city should be ran from a business aspect. It does not put us in a position to be transparent at all.
That is. I'm sorry, I don't know where you laugh, but I'm having a hard time understanding how a city could still have a charter. So let me ask this, have there been any amendments, any updates?
Yes, earlier on I talked about the municipal code,
Right.
and through the tenure of former Councilwoman, now State Rep Lydia Glaze, with Elizabeth Carr Hurst, that tenure they did push to update the municipal code. But the rewrite of the charter is important for several reasons. Here it is. I support term limits. We're growing now where we need to go into 6 districts, because this last election, we have 3 members from one subdivision that's sitting on council. So where's the representation for the other quarters of the city? So it's this charter is empowering people to be in positions and to facilitate government in a way that I'm very uncomfortable with. And I won't stop speaking out about it.
So many things have changed in this world since 1912. So to imagine that they're still operating from a charter that's 114 years old is amazing to me. I'm sorry for harping on that. Let me move forward. We talked earlier, and you mentioned earlier about utilities, and it seems to be that is a big issue, or a sounding board in Fairburn right now. What are the resolutions for this?
Listen, you talking about resolutions.
What do you see as a resolution? Is there one?
Yes, first of all, can the council get a copy of the rate analysis? Because I've asked for it and I never saw it. Who did the rate analysis? Why are these things such a secret? These are part of the work that we do.
Right.
See, when you do a utility rate analysis, I educated myself when I went to the BA conference. I want the taxpayers to know I spent your tax dollar well. There are 3 thresholds. Simple, low, medium, high. Where did we go? And why did we start there? Why did we start, did we start high? And we have to have solutions in place for when we make these decisions. So here's an example, and I know my peers probably got offended when I said, listen, many of you have been here 12 years on this council. If we were supposed to do incremental rate increases That's irresponsible in government. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. So when we get to a place that you say we haven't had an increase in 12 years, and then all of a sudden you go yield to the highest percentage that you can, that's going to be burdensome on the people of Fairburn. And then there is no partnerships with any, so like community, the state community health, the community affairs is not involved. We don't have, light heat, yes, but the residents have to go out and get light heat themselves, when light heat used to have a partnership with the city where a representative will come over. Those things like that. Listen, I'm not ashamed to say it. I was in the assistance line, and I got the $1,000 assistance to pay my utility bill. I just paid off a $2,000 bill. So, and I'm a councilwoman. I'm going to speak it into existence because I am. And, when it comes down to how we treat people and how we do business, I'm wired different. I am not wired to close my eyes to human suffering. I'm a social worker. I may not have all of the solutions, but I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to make a way or find a way. That's what I believe in.
Oddly enough, that is the signature at the bottom of my email. Dr. Hudson, you've been extremely transparent with us this evening. We're grateful for that. Tell us a little more about leadership salaries and how they ranked compared to the city of Atlanta.
So I am very disappointed that I believe that the salary study that was done was in comparison to the city of Atlanta. The city of Fairburn should not be compared to a city that has 1 million people. I don't know what the population is. I know it's probably more than 1 million people in Atlanta.
Atlanta's 650,000.
650,000, almost there. Almost, I tell you, math is not my subject. But one of the red flags for me was I came across the contract of the city manager, and the amount of the salary was alarming to me. And I learned that council members had never saw the contract. It was signed off by the mayor. Then raises being implemented in that tier between the city manager and the assistant city manager. And I'm unclear if this was approved by council or not. So no one wants to have these conversations. No one wants to talk about P card usage without clear disciplinary action. Employment contracts not formally presented to council. Unapproved salary increases. ARPA fund reallocation and deviations. Nobody wants to talk about those things. But these are the things that are going to lend the city to a place of accountability. When I talk about accountability, it's beyond Dr. Hudson. We have to follow the law. And when we have a government that is not willing to follow the law, we have a rogue government. We cannot operate like that. And I refuse to have my name attached to anything unlawful. Unlawful governance, the only way to restore lawful governance in Fairburn is to remove those decision makers who have violated the law.
You spoke earlier, and maybe I didn't have a clear understanding, so I'm going to ask you if you'll go back to explain to us about the water system in Fairburn.
Well, it's just as it is. We have our water quality, I understand, is good. Our water pressure is not. And I understand efforts to improve our water pressure. Forgot, it's on the top of my head. Because my water pressure did improve a little. It's not at 100%. So last year there was some sewer projects that were done in the city to move in that direction. It is my understanding that there are some plans to begin to upgrade the utility infrastructure putting those things that are above ground, below ground. And I'm proud to say that my advocacy for workforce and getting linemen, increase in linemen was approved. Those positions were approved. So I simply want to finish what we started. And I simply also want my peers to know, listen, we have to work together to do what's right for the citizens. And it's not about what you like about someone. If they're saying something that is right, simply let's do what's right and find out how you can contribute to that, and we as a group implement it. And everybody's not going to be an expert on every topic, because I'm not. So at the end of the day, I just see that Fairburn has been subjected to bad actors, and the residents are paying for this in ways that I'm just very concerned with. And, to hear the seniors reach out to the county, and I watched that, I was floored, because I saw how hard these seniors work to support mayoral candidates to get them elected. And now nobody's speaking up on their behalf. If a developer is coming into the city of Fairburn and there's no clear guidelines for seniors on how their housing is to be maintained, if low income credits are going to expire, then there should be full transparency when any tenant signs a lease, to give them the option to make the decision if that's where they need to be or not. And then, just because you can do something, should you do it? And as well as, if we have a developer that wants to go up on market rate rent, when this community was developed for seniors in the first place, why are we allowing them to continue to come into the city to do business? And this developer has plans in planning and zoning to build another senior housing. Why are we allowing this?
That senior housing that you mentioned, is it the one that's,
The manor.
is that at Roosevelt and
Yes.
92?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly where you're speaking of. Dr. Hudson, the hour has been well spent.
Yes.
We have been able to articulate quite a few things, but what I want you to do in this time frame is to help the people of Fairburn to understand why they should give you another chance to serve in this particular office, and why this time is the time for you to serve in this office.
Fairburn, tonight, you didn't just hear a speech, you heard the facts. You heard what has been uncovered and what has been questioned and what still demands accountability. For 18 years, I've served this community, not for recognition, not for position, but because I believe in people, in families, and in doing the work. And that truly makes a difference. And when I took my seat on council, I did exactly that. I came in prepared with my experience, and I acted on it. I pushed for a charter rewrite because our government document is outdated. I challenged financial inconsistencies because your tax dollar matter. I raised concerns about contracts, raised and processes that did not come before council. I advocated for utility infrastructure and workforce investment, including linemen positions that were approved. I asked why millions in capital funds were not being used. I questioned why residents were paying more while leadership compensation increased, because that is my responsibility. This is not about politics. This is about accountability. This is about making sure seniors are not pushed out of their homes when we have the authority to protect them. This is about making sure developers are treated fairly and not subjected to the pay to play. This is about making sure government operates in the light, not in the shadows. And let's be honest tonight, I stood here alone. Neither one of the opponents that's running is here. Not because I am the only one running, but because I am the only one who showed up. And I always do. And that should matter to every voter, because if someone is asking you for their vote, they should be willing to stand before you. There are also serious concerns that have been raised regarding how leadership positions have been obtained and whether proper processes, including our charter, will follow. And I will say this clearly. Voters should never be expected to co-sign or validate actions that raise legal and ethical concerns. Leadership must be earned, not assumed. So now the question is simple. Do you want a city that is transparent? Do you want a city that is accountable? Do you want leadership that will ask the hard questions even when it's uncomfortable? Or do you want more of the same? So, because you have a choice, and that choice will determine the future of Fairburn. You have already started something. We started asking questions. We started pushing for accountability. We started exposing gaps that have gone unchecked. And now we must finish what we started. Let's finish restoring integrity in our government. Let's finish building systems that actually work for the people. Let's finish ensuring your tax dollars are protected. Let's finish creating a Fairburn where leadership is transparent, accountable, and present. My name is Dr. Samantha Hudson, and I have done the work. I am prepared and I am ready to continue fighting for this city. Let's finish what we started. April 27th is early voting, and May 19th is election day. Fairburn, I need you. And you need me, and together we can move our city forward. Let's get to the polls, Fairburn. Over 7,000 votes was casted in November. That's my work. Through the Black Georgia Vote Initiative, I've worked diligently to improve voter engagement and participation in this city. I want all 7,000 of those votes, that you will send a strong message that your vote will not go void. Let's finish what we started.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Hudson. You stole just a little bit of my thunder by giving out dates, and I didn't get a chance to do it. But I want to share with you all these important dates that are coming up. Monday, April 20th is the last day for you to actually register to vote. Please note that, Monday, April 20th. Monday, April 27th is the first day of early voting. Friday, May 8th is the last day to request an absentee ballot. Friday, May 15th is the last day to early vote. Friday, May 15th is also the last day to return your absent ballot in a drop box. And Tuesday, May 19th is the last day for an absentee ballot submitted. And Tuesday, May 19th is election day. So ladies and gentlemen, in all of Fulton County, but here specifically in Fairburn, Georgia, make sure you exercise your right to vote. It has been our pleasure to host Dr. Hudson. We thank you so very much for your transparency, and we look forward to seeing what tomorrow brings for you at the city of Fairburn. At this time, I would like to turn the remainder of this session over to our leader of SEAL, is it Dr.? No, Ms. Davia Chapman.
You need to stop. Thank you, Pastor Flint. Thank you, Dr. Hudson. Thank you. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you. Charter, oh, Lord Jesus. Let me say, I want to thank the homeowners that came out. I want to thank the viewers for listening. And I often say this, Dr. Samantha, I don't care about packing the house out, because I have three audience. The one that's going to come to the church, the one that's going to look out on YouTube, the one that's going to watch it on social media live, and then go back and watch it. Seal, want to thank the pastor of this church. Also want to thank my husband. Dr. Samantha, I know you probably watch social media. When people put on forums, they usually put the winner is. Well, I tell everybody, all of my candidates are the winner. It is not for me to say who's the winner. That's up to the voters. So tonight, Dr. Hudson, you're the only one sitting on the platform, so you was my winner tonight. We're going to be taking some pictures, and they're not endorsement pictures. This election is very important, you guys. And I'm talking to the city of the city of Fairburn right now. Make sure that you get it right over there. too often we decide to deal with who we know, who we go to church with, who our frat brother is, who our sorority sister is, who our church member. But don't let nobody steal your vote. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. I stopped that, Pastor. I was gonna use it. Don't let nobody steal your vote. Right now, they're already trying to take our democracy away. I said it the other night and I'll say it again tonight, and I stand by what I say. Anytime that we do our own folks like this, that we live by and see every day, you can't talk about that man in the White House. You just like him. How can you talk about what he doing when you turn it around? Turn that off, Samantha. See, I call you Samantha, Samantha. And you're doing the same exact thing that he's doing. We're living in some terrible times. See, you turn that phone off, please. Turn it off. We're living in some terrible times. She know me. She know I'm gonna be the boss. We're living in some terrible times. And so we need to make sure that we have leaders that are gonna represent the people. It is time out for showboating. It is time out for leaders that wanna walk the red carpet, wanna make sure they got the finest dress on and the designer shoes, and Lord have mercy, don't let them go lose 2 pounds, so we gonna get a show. We have to stop. We have to make sure that we get serving leaders. That's what we're looking for now in these last days, some serving leaders. And if you cannot lead the people and serve the people, then you just need to just step aside. It ain't easy. So I just want you guys to think about that in the city of Fairburn. Go out and cast your vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I am telling you to vote. And I'm going to clear up some stuff, because see, sometimes the internet will tell a tale. And I'm always saying this, the truth will go to the corner. But a tale, I say a tale because when I was coming up, I couldn't say the other word, so I say tale. A tale will go all the way to Mississippi, go across the water and come back to Georgia, and that tale gonna still be a tale. The 3 candidates that was on the ballot that I got off the Secretary of State, when I sent the emails, I sent it to all 3 candidates. All 3 candidates. One candidate asked me what it's about. I sent an email back and I explained. I said, do you want to do it? You let me know. I sent another email and I never heard from that candidate again. Another candidate, I know they read the emails because I know when you read my emails and when people say that they don't get the emails, I always make sure that I have people on the email, my team, and I do a paper trail. That's why I don't like to do telephone calls, because see, folks can say I said anything on the telephone, but when I do a paper trail, I go back to my paper trail. I don't talk to candidates, and when I put it out, I said I will do no talking on the phone to candidates, only a paper trail. So I went back to the paper trail, and I saw that the candidate did get the email. And so when it was brought to my attention, I told the person, now you know me. One thing I'm not going to do is tell a tale. I'm going to tell the truth. So given that, I want to thank Dr. Samantha Hudson for taking the call. And she got all hour and 15 minutes to say what she wanted to say. And so we're going to take some pictures and we're going to go home. Her grandbaby said, Grandma, I'm ready to go home. She done slept. She ready to go home. So I want to thank you guys. Make sure you go vote. And this will be the last form that SEAL will be doing into after the primaries. I had some calls and say, why? Because it's too many people having forums now. It look like it's beginning to be competition. And so I'm not in no competition. I just love doing what I do. So I'm gonna let the competition, just competition together and just do what they do. And I'm gonna rest up and get ready for the primaries. But I do have some interviews, some private interviews that I will be doing, and some people have reached out, because when you do those up and close interviews, you get personal and you can see the real person, where like right now, if Miss Samantha, I'm gonna call her Samantha now, if she was here with 3 or 4 people, she wouldn't have got to do what she did tonight. But she did take the orders and came to the up close personal thing. So again, thank you all. Good night. And Seal, appreciate you. We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Thank you.
Well, let's take